We focus on our breath. The inhalation, the exhalation. The coolness of the air as it enters our nose. The warmth of the air as it is exhaled out our mouth, passing our lips. And we sit naked with the infinite. Many masks cast aside. Just our true, authentic self. Asking to be used. How may I serve? The highest good of all concerned. How can I serve the infinite presence within each and every soul I meet today? Let me serve. let me surrender. So it is. From a red bud on my favorite rose bush to the smile on a grandmother's face, to the dew on a single blade of grass, I keep seeing in the smallest ways. From my hoot of an old horn owl to the laughter of children at play, the first whistle passing my son's lips I keep hearing in the smallest ways. When I pay such close attention, there's no judgment in my life, there's only love in the smallest of ways. In the smallest of ways. From the birth of my only baby to the song that I've sung full of grace, to the loss of a mentor not meant to be mine, I keep feeling in the smallest ways. From a breath of night blooming jasmine to your scent permeating my days, I can call to mind what I can't find. I keep breathing in the smallest ways. When I pay such close attention, there's no judgment in my life, there's only love in the smallest of ways. In the smallest of ways. In the smallest ways. When I give in to sweet surrender, and I know that God is in this place, there's only love in the smallest of ways. In the smallest of ways, I keep seeing. In the smallest of ways, I keep hearing. In the smallest of ways, I keep feeling. In the smallest ways I keep breathing. In the smallest ways I keep falling. In the smallest ways. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm going to assume that this microphone is on and it's working fabulously. Right, Jack? In the smallest ways, finding God in the least expected places. I wrote that song a number of years ago. I don't know if I have a date on 2014. And I was in a 12-step meeting, and there was this British woman that was in there. And she shared yet again, and she said, regardless of all the religious training and church and catechism I've had in my life, I've never experienced God. And I could identify with that, having considering myself a recovering Catholic, which I've probably said here before. But I'm grateful for that upbringing. I'm grateful for that upbringing because from the time I was a little kid, I wanted to be a priest when I was a kid. Then I found girls and it just kind of blew that. Yeah, it just totally destroys it. I can't, what? But I prayed every night. 3 Hail Marys, 3 Glory Bees, 3 Hours of Our Fathers, and 3 Acts of Contrition. Why 3 of each? I don't know. I was praying my way into heaven, which maybe some of you grew up with. You pray your way in there. And then I had an epiphany and coming down off of something and recognizing that God's not out there, that God's within me. And we're not right and they're not wrong. And it set me on this path. It set me on this path where I wanted a tangible experience of God. So when this young woman stated this in the meeting, growing up I would have said, yeah, you're probably right. Because I was attributing it to God out there. The white man with the white beard in the clouds. You know, the way that it had been skewed culturally growing up in that religious community that I grew up in. The Church of the Holy Innocents, which I was not. Far from it. But when this woman said this, I'd been at Agape for a while. I just celebrated 30 years, my 30th anniversary at Agape. I got there, thank you. I got there in a suicidal depression about 9 months after my dad died because I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know how to be with that loss. So I had been there for a while. For 20 years I had been at Agape. And when Michael spoke, it's like I caught it. Because he wasn't talking about a God out there. He was talking about that infinite presence that is in, as, and through all of us. And it acts through all of us. And it wants nothing more than to express the fullness of its Spirit as our life. It's our champion. It's that angel over the blade of grass saying, grow, 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 like it says in the Talmud. We're all those blades of grass. We're all the acorn that has everything within it to become an oak tree. Everything within it. But slowly but surely, culturally, familially, Familially. I think I just made up a word. I'm channeling Beckwith right now. Familially. He always makes words up better than mine. That my wife pointed something out yesterday. When I was about 6, in Roseville, Michigan, I grew up on the northeast side of Detroit. In Roseville, the humble village of Roseville. The humble village of Roseville. I decided I was going to do a show in my backyard, and I was going to ride my bike, and I was going to do whatever I could, and kids were paying like nickels and dimes to get in our backyard, and my mom came out and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm putting on a show." And she goes, "You can't put on a show. You haven't practiced. You haven't rehearsed." And I took the money and I threw it down and asked the kids to leave. Now, it was the first step in saying, you can't do this. You can't do this. You're not prepared. But as a 6-year-old, I was prepared. I had my Superman cape on, and I was going to do whatever it took to entertain those kids. And it was that first shutdown. Anybody felt shut down like that in their life? You know? And I don't think that it was like my mom saying, "I'm going to shut my kid down." It's just like, it's what she knew. It's what I've come to know being a parent and being parented. It's like, I absolutely trust that my mother and father did the best that they could from where they came from. So I don't have that blame, "They did this to me," any longer. But what I've learned in this process of being at Agape and being in this teaching, this ancient wisdom, this new thought, ancient wisdom teaching, is that the infinite nature of God, if God is truly infinite, it's in me, as me, through me. It's in us, as us, through us, each one of us. That little 6-year-old was still connected to that. At what point in our life did we become disconnected? At what point did we become not enough? At what point did we separate where the veil became kind of like an armor? And it got thicker and thicker, and I got further and further away from that infinite. I didn't get further away, but my perception was that I got further away. I was a sinner. I was born of original sin. Anybody else born of original sin here? That teaching, born of original sin. That the ultimate act of oneness was a sin. That it was dirty. It was something dirty. It was something bad. Not something beautiful. Not something where we really experienced that infinite presence with another human being. But it was something bad and dirty. And the armor got thicker. And the armor got thicker. It took me getting to these communities. It took me getting to Agape and hearing what Michael Beckwith had to say, and eventually getting out to other communities and hearing what other, and reading Ernest Holmes, because we at Agape, when they were affiliated with United Church of Religious Science, we were reading Ernest Holmes. I don't know how many of you have read Ernest Holmes in here. And how many of you read it and thought, "Oh, well, this is easy." It's like I read it and I had to read a paragraph over and over. I was like, what the hell is he trying to say here, But what I've learned and what I've taken faith in is that infinite presence in me, as me, through me. And I've learned that I don't get what I pray for, I get what I pray from, where I pray from. I don't get what I pray for, I get where I pray from. And aligning myself Learning these teachings learning that the infinite presence of God, of love, of the universe, of spirit, of Jesus, however you want to frame it, was in me, as me, and through me. It's like, man, I was just waiting for the lightning to strike me dead for a long time in saying that, because I had grown up that it was out there, that I was being judged for every thought, for every action, for every deed, misdeed. And then I began to judge the deeds and the faults and the failings and the shadow, instead of recognizing that the faults, the deeds, misdeeds, and the shadow were part of the infinite. Out of the dark comes the light. Out of the dark, those new seeds of contemplations have the space to germinate, to develop a root system to meet the light. Because if that root system is too shallow and it meets the light, it burns up. It's like the parable. It's like the seed on top of the soil, the birds eat it. Sure, they poop it out somewhere down the road, when they're flying, but it gets eaten up. But it's like when it's in the deep, dark loam is where it develops the roots. So I trust that many of us have been in that deep, dark loam. Perhaps you're there now. Perhaps you've been there in the past in your life. But I had such judgment about those aspects until I recognized that it is part of the flow of my life. It's part of the journey. It's part of the path. Recognizing that my life is not the destination, that my life is the journey. My life is the part of my life where I embrace this shadow. It doesn't mean that I need to continue to act out on my shadow. My drug addiction, my alcohol addiction, my sexual addiction, my lack and limitation thinking. It doesn't mean that I have to continue to act out on it, but I no longer have to hold it in judgment. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. I am just not worthy. I've recognized my innate worth, because I am that I am. I am of the infinite. We are of the infinite. Worth doesn't come from how much I make or how good I may appear, but that I fall down and I get up. And even when I have fallen down, I'm worthy. And even when I get up, I'm worthy. And even when I treat you unkindly, I'm worthy. And even when I make amends, I'm worthy. We are worthy, just as we are. I heard Rainn Wilson on Oprah's podcast a couple of weeks ago. And he was raised Baha'i. Anybody familiar with the Baha'i faith? Yeah, it's a beautiful faith. My friend John Barnes, who passed away about 2.5 years ago, amazing musician. He was Baha'i, and I loved listening to John Barnes pray. He was a deeply devotional human being. But Rainn Wilson talked about, in the Baha'i faith, the idea of making of art is no different than prayer. That the moment, there's no difference between lifting up a paintbrush, dipping it in paint and putting it on a canvas. There's no difference between that and sitting in a church in the stillness. How can we allow our creative acts to be our prayers? How can we commune with that infinite consciously on a daily basis? And our life becomes an act of devotion, a continuous prayer, because we devote our life and our actions. In 1998, I had been with my band for about 10 years at that point. And I'd been at Agape for about 4 years. And something inside said, I'd been sober for a minute too, but I needed to go off and do what I was doing because my songs were becoming more devotional. The themes of what I was singing about. I wasn't blatantly singing about God or Jesus or Buddha or anything like that, but the theme of Spirit and of God became in my music, and I realized in the environment, not just the environment, but the guys that I was writing with did not resonate with the message that was moving through me. So I left, and I devoted my life to this. I devoted my life to creating music that uplifts, heals open hearts, and inspires individuals to a greater awareness of the infinite nature of their life and their connection with that infinite presence of love. So I'm encouraging us to go out into the world and allow the subtlety of the practices of your devotion to infiltrate your every step, your every breath. We had this idea that I certainly had this idea of the more pious I appeared, the holier, holier than thou, which is a facade. So, turning that daily devotion, God use me, God use me, God use me. I wake up in the morning and it's like, how can I serve today? How can I serve today? How can I serve? God, get me out of the way. Get little me out of the way that my highest self might be revealed in all I do. With every word, with every action, with every step. And yes, I fall. You live in LA and you drive, you're going to fall. I'm sorry. Anybody, anywhere, exactly. Why are you going so slow? Why are you cutting me off? Bless you. Bless your cotton socks. Bless your cotton socks. Allowing the prayer to be that act of creativity. How can I turn that, bless you, bless you, bless you. How can I allow those moments that I want to go dark and I just want to implode, how can I turn those into a devotion? I'm scared right now. I've been cut off. I'm going too slow. I'm not going to get there in time. God, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Bless this person. Bless this road. Bless this car. I always surround the car in light before I take off. I learned that from my wife. It's taking the idea that meditation is I'm levitating but I'm not levitating. I'm so, just all that stuff to just stopping at the top of every hour. If we just had the church bells like they do in Europe, just to stop at the top of every hour and just okay, I'm back. That's an efficient meditation. Just as an efficient prayer is, I'm blessing all on my path today. Finding the ways that we can incorporate the prayer and meditation where we don't feel like we have to stop for an hour, 2 hours, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, that it can just be in the moment to connect with that. To connect with these flowers. To connect with these candles, even though they're fake. But to be able to witness the flicker, to the singing bowls, to the steps that I take while I'm out on my walk in the morning, in the smallest ways, from a red bud on my favorite rosebud, to the smile on a grandmother's face, to the dew on a single blade of grass. I keep seeing in the smallest ways, from the hoot of an old horned owl to the laughter of children at play, to the first whistle passing my son's lips. I keep hearing in the smallest ways. Let's find the ways, the smallest ways that we can find God in our everyday life. Just like we look at each other and do our namaste, it's like, can we go up to those who we are not in agreement or alignment with and witness that infinite presence? The namaste, the Christ in me witnesses the Christ in you. Those folks that we are in disagreement with, I witness the infinite presence of God within you, just as you are. Let's find a way to incorporate these simple practices, to begin to pay more attention, to begin to remain in the moment, to witness God in the smallest ways. Nothing grandiose, and sometimes it might be grandiose. I hold for us all. I'm just going to do a quick prayer before we move into our Mother, Father, God, infinite Spirit of life, the allness, the isness, the perfect peace, passing human understanding. I'm grateful for the conscious realization of truth that right where I am, right where each of us is, you are in your infinite, every fiber, cell, atom, breath. You reveal yourself as our life, and we go forth this day to begin to witness you and to recognize you and recognize you in everything and all things, to witness the grandeur and the mysticism and the mystery and the beauty in the dark and the light and the standing up and the falling down. We just find ourselves in these moments. We suspend judgment of ourselves and we recognize you and ask, how can I serve today? How can I serve today? How can I serve today? Use me as a beneficial presence. Allow me to be a beneficial presence this day that I might go forward and be that light, that beacon, that loving example. I'm grateful for our time together. I'm grateful for this unity of Carlsbad, where we come together in holy communion to celebrate that infinite presence of love in, through, and as our very lives. For this and so much more, I'm just grateful, grateful, grateful. I release it unto the law. I know that we all leave here uplifted with a new seed of contemplation to go forward, to be that space, to germinate, and to express the light and the love that we're here to express. For this and so much more, I'm grateful. I release it and I allow it to be, and so it is. Amen.
Now is time in our service where we bring forth our gifts for unity of Carlsbad. And as we hold our gifts in our hands, surround them with divine light, divine energy, we affirm together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Sometimes I forget where I come from. Sometimes I forget where I'm going to. Sometimes I get so confused I lose my way. Sometimes I know you feel the same. Then I remember there is nowhere Come on. Then I remember there is nowhere that God is not. No, no, no. There is nowhere that God is not. There is nowhere that God is not. No, no, no. Everywhere I am, I know what I've got. I forgot to pray, forgot to be still and know. Just for a moment. Forgot to forgive myself until I forgive myself. Forgot to ask for help. I forgot to say